Hello everyone, good morning. As you all know that we have already started the fifth chapter of history. Today we will continue with the remaining part of the lesson. So let's start. Yesterday we learned about the Old Stone Age and today we will discuss about Middle Stone Age, New Stone Age and Copper Stone Age. Alright. The Middle Stone Age, also known as the Mesolithic Age, began at the end of the Paleolithic period. It extended roughly from about 10,000 BCE and continued till about 8,000 BCE. During this time, people became more skillful in making and using tools. The stone tools of the Mesolithic Age were smaller, sharper, and better than those of the Old Stone Age. Animals' bones and horns were also used during this time. From being hunters and food gatherers, early humans now learned to tame animals for different purposes. They started domesticating animals like dogs, goats, and sheep. The Mesolithic Age paved the way for the Neolithic Age. If you remember, yesterday we learned that Paleolithic Age continued till 10,000 BC, right? Right after Paleolithic Age started Mesolithic, Middle Stone Age, and during this time people they became more skillful, more creative in making and using tools. Though they made stone tools, but that tools were far better, smaller, sharper than those of the Old Stone Age. They not only used stones, but they started using bones and horns of animals. They now learned to tame animals, to domesticate animals for various purposes. They domesticated animals like dogs, goats, and sheep. The Mesolithic Age gave way to New Stone Age or Neolithic period. Now let us read about the Neolithic Age or New Stone Age. The New Stone Age or the Neolithic Age extended roughly from about 8,000 BCE to about 4,000 BCE. The lifestyle of the humans had improved considerably during this period. One of the most important features of this period was that the quality of the stone tools had improved. They were well shaped and polished. They were smaller and smoother with sharper edges. So see, what changes the New Stone Age brought was the people, they now started making tools that were well shaped and polished, that were smaller and smoother with sharper edges. You can have a look at the picture here. We can see here that these tools are sharper. These are well shaped, far better than those made by the people of Old Stone Age or Middle Stone Age. During this period, humans learned that instead of gathering grains, they could grow them. They might have noticed that seeds scattered on wheat ground grew into plants. They started digging and plugging the land. They also realized that grains such as rice and wheat could be stored for a long time and eaten during the long cold winters. This was the beginning of farming. So see, now they were becoming more intellectual. After observing things, they started discovering all new things. So now they also learn farming. Instead of gathering, they now learn to produce it. Okay, let me tell you that this is the Neolithic Age is better known for discovery of agriculture, making of fine pottery and the invention of the wheel. Like the fire, which is believed to have been discovered by chance, agriculture too was discovered by chance. How? Early human ate fruits and threw away the seeds, and gradually these seeds germinated into new plants, and they observed all these things. This was a great discovery. They now started digging and plugging the land for growing crops. And then they also realized, they also learned that wheat and rice could be stored for a long time and eaten during winter, because during winter they could not cultivate, they could not produce food because of the cold winter. So they realized that grains like rice and wheat could be stored. The Neolithic people domesticated animals like dogs, cattle, goats and sheep. They could now get milk, meat and skins. Bullocks were used to help in farming. Donkeys, bullocks, camels and horses were used for transportation of goods and people. They did not need to hunt, as some of these animals were kept and killed for food. So now see, not only farming, they also learned domestication of animals in a better way. They not only kept animals for meat but for other work too, like they could get milk, meat, skin. Bullocks they used for farming, and camels, horses were all used for transporting things and people from one place to another. Now they do not need to go to the forest and hunt animals. These animals were kept for food also. One very important achievement of humans at this time was the invention of the wheel. Early humans must have seen a rolling log or tree trunk, which probably gave them the idea of the wheel. The first wheel was perhaps made by cutting a log of wood into circular pieces, which were used for making carts, so that things could be carried more easily and quickly. Carts also helped people to travel far from their villages. The most significant use of the wheel was for making pottery. Pots used for cooking and storing food could be made faster and better with the potter's wheel. Later, the wheel was used for transportation and for carrying loads. Now say, after fire, the second most important discovery of the early humans was the invention of the wheel, which again changed the lives of the people to great extent. It is said that they must have seen a rolling log or tree trunk, which gave them the idea of the wheel. When they observed this thing, that a log when rolls moves faster, so this gave them the idea of the wheel. What they did was, they cut a log of wood into circular pieces, just like the wheel, and used for making carts. Carts, I hope you know, it is a two-wheeled vehicle drawn by an animal and used for transporting goods and people. So with the help of the wheel, they made carts so that things could be carried easily, and the carts also help people to travel far from their villages. Now see, they now started living together in a village. The most important use of the wheel was for making pottery. Pottery means dishes or pots or any other articles made of clay. So now since they learned farming, they learned cooking, learned domesticating animals, so now they need utensils, they need to store food, to cook. So they made dishes, bowls out of clay with the help of potter's wheel. So this was the most significant use that they made of the wheel for making pottery. Later, the wheel was also used for transportation. In the New Stone Age, people began to wear clothes made of wool and cotton. The art of spinning and weaving probably developed about this time. Skins of animals and bark of trees were no longer used. So remember, the people of the Old Stone Age, they used to cover their bodies with the help of barks of trees, leaves. Now the people in the New Stone Age, they began to wear clothes made of wool and cotton. Since now they started farming, they can get cotton from cotton plants. They started domesticating animals. They can easily get wool from sheep. Now, the bark of trees were no longer used to cover their bodies. Instead, they used clothes made of wool and cotton. That means they now learn to make clothes also. Okay. Agriculture and domestication of animals brought major changes in the lifestyle of early humans. They gave up being nomads and settled down. They built mud houses with thatched roofs and began to live in villages. So, now people earlier they used to live in caves, they did not had house, they did not build house, they used to live in caves and wherever they could in the jungle. Okay, nomads means, I hope you know, we learnt in science also, people who travel from one place to another frequently. They do not stay in one place for a long time. Now, since the people of the new stone age, they discovered, they learned farming, domesticating of animals, they had to stay in one place, they had to live in one place. They were no longer nomads now. They gave up being nomads and they settled down, they settled in one place. They also built houses. Now, they do not live in caves. They build mud houses. Remember, kacha house, a house made of mud and the roof with dried straw. So, now they began to live in villages. Early humans could not understand the forces of nature. They were afraid of lightning, thunder, floods and earthquakes. They began to worship the sky, sun, rain, thunder, wind, etc. as gods. They performed ceremonies to please the gods. Later began to bury their dead with rituals. So, see, the early humans, they did not understand, they had no idea about the forces of nature, like the lightning, the thundering, floods, earthquakes, volcanoes. They had no idea why all these things happens. We now know, we study geography, we learn everything in geography about the weather, about the earthquakes, about the lightning, thundering, rain, everything. But then people, they did not have any idea why it's happening, why it happens, when it happens. So, they were very afraid of all these things and then they started worshipping them as God. They worshipped water, they worshipped rain, they worshipped wind. They used to perform ceremonies to please the gods, to make the gods happy. They also bury their dead with rituals like we do. Whenever someone dies in a society, in a family, we bury the dead with all the rituals, isn't it? Okay, now the copper stone age. Copper was discovered around 4000 BC. It is the first metal used by humans towards the end of the new stone age. Tools such as axes, knives and swords were now made of copper. They were much more refined. This was the beginning of the copper stone age or the Chalcolithic period. So, just after the new stone age ended, that is in the year 4000 BCE, the copper stone age started, and copper is the first metal used by humans. Tools like axes, knives, swords were all made of copper, and this marked the beginning of the copper stone age, when the people started using copper and stone to make tools. That period is known as copper stone age. Gradually, other metals were also discovered. A harder and stronger metal called bronze was made by mixing copper with tin. All this improvement in tools such as plug helped in the further development of agriculture. More food was produced in less time. Till about 2000 BCE, both stone and copper were used. The copper stone age is an important period in the history of humans. It marks the beginning of the age of metal. Many years later, around 1200 BCE, iron was discovered, which is still very important for us today. The Iron Age led to further growth and spread of human civilization. Slowly, they started discovering other metals too. a metal called bronze was made by mixing copper with tin. All this improvement in tools helped in development of agriculture. They now could produce more food in less time. Till the year 2000 BCE, both copper and stone were used, and this period was an important period in the history of humans, because there were many developments, many improvements. Many years later, around 1200 BCE, iron was discovered, which is still very important for us, because most of the metals that we use today, that are used for different purposes, are made of iron, including machines and factories, and iron led to further growth and spread of human civilization, which we are witnessing even today. Let us now quickly have a look of all the three periods of the Stone Age. The Old Stone Age, Paleolithic, tools were heavy and blunt. Middle Stone Age, tools were smaller, sharper and better. And the New Stone Age, the tools were well shaped, polished, sharper and smoother. So, we can see the changes in all these three periods, right. Okay, the occupation of people in the Old Stone Age were hunting and fishing. Middle Stone Age, domestication, people learned domesticating animals, and in the New Stone Age, people learned farming and they also domesticated animals. Okay, people of Old Stone Age lived in caves or on trees. Middle Stone Age also lived in caves on trees. But the people of New Stone Age, they lived in mud houses. They learned to build houses. People of the Old Stone Age ate roots, fruits, leaves, but the people of the New Stone Age, they learned farming. So, they ate fruits, vegetables, barley, grains, milk, whatever they produced in their farm, and from animals they domesticated. Okay, the people of Old Stone Age covered their bodies with barks of trees, leaves and animal skins. But the people of New Stone Age, they used cotton and woolen clothes to cover their bodies. The achievement in the Old Stone Age was the discovery of fire, and in the Middle Stone Age was the discovery of wheel. Okay, that's all in this chapter. I hope I have been able to make you understand. We will be doing question answers and other exercises in the next class. You all read the chapter thoroughly. Till then, keep watching. Thank you.